Dear students, today we start the classes for third semester. I am offering the course Complex Analysis. The prescribed textbook for this course is Functions of One Complex Variable by John V. Conway. Your whole syllabus is divided into 4 units. The first unit focuses on the following sections: the extended complex plane and its spherical representation, power series, analytic functions, and Mobius transformations. Let us go to the first section of Unit 1, namely extended complex plane and its spherical representation. In this section, we introduce a geometrical description of complex numbers as points on a sphere. The advantage of this representation is that it includes the point at infinity. This abstraction simplifies several facts in complex analysis. To explain the geometrical description of complex numbers as points on a sphere, we need the notion of stereographic projection due to Riemann. We begin with some properties of the set of complex numbers. Observe that C is a metric space with respect to the metric rho of z prime is equal to modulus of z minus z prime, and this metric is called the usual metric on C. With respect to this usual metric, C is a complete metric space, and also observe that C is not sequentially compact. This means that there are sequences in C that have no subsequence converging to a point in C. For example, consider the sequence n plus in in C. This sequence has no convergent subsequence. If Znk is a subsequence of n plus ink, then modulus of Znk diverges to plus infinity. If we attach the point infinity to C, then every sequence in the new set, namely C union infinity, has a convergent subsequence. Consequently, C is sequentially compact and hence compact. The special point infinity is called the point at infinity, and the set C union infinity is denoted by C infinity, and this set is called the extended complex plane. In order to represent the extended complex number system geometrically, we need the concept of stereographic projection. Consider the unit sphere S2 in R3, and this is a unit sphere, and this is the point 0, 0, 1, and this point N is called the north pole of this sphere. First, we show that the metric space C is homeomorphic to S2 minus n. Here S2 minus n denotes the unit sphere without the north pole. So first we identify C with the xy plane in the space R3, and here the correspondence is given by z goes to xy 0. Here the plane P, the plane set of all xy z such that xy is equal to 0. This plane is called the equatorial plane, This plane divides the sphere into two halves, and this is the plane P. This plane divides the sphere into two halves. Take any point Z in the complex plane. So this is the point Z. So Z is equal to x plus iy. Be any point in the complex plane. And consider a line in R3 passing through the points N and Z. And this is the line passing through the points N and Z. And observe that this line cuts the sphere in a unique point capital Z. That is, this line intersects the sphere in a unique point. That unique point is denoted by Z. And this point Z is called the spherical image of the point Z. Here Z is equal to x plus iy is a point on the complex plane, and capital Z is the point of intersection of the sphere and the line passing through N and Z. So this point Z, capital Z, is called the spherical image of the point Z. As Z varies over the complex plane, the corresponding spherical image varies over S2 minus N. Geometrically, it is obvious that there is a one-to-one correspondence between the set of points of S2 except the north pole and the complex plane C. Let x1, x2, s3 be the coordinates of the point Z. That is, x1, s2, s3 are the coordinates of the spherical image of the point Z. And define a function phi from C to S2 minus n by phi of Z is equal to x1, x2, x3. And this map is called the stereographic projection. If we take a point Z inside the circle mod Z is equal to 1, this is the circle mod Z is equal to 1. Here Z is a point inside the circle mod Z is equal to 1. And this is the spherical image of this point Z. So in this case, the spherical image is on the lower hemisphere. So if Z is any point inside the unit circle, then its spherical image is in the lower half plane. So take a point outside the unit circle mod Z is equal to 1, and this is the circle mod Z is equal to 1, and Z is a point outside this circle, and draw a line through N and Z. Then this point of intersection is the spherical image. So in this case, the spherical image is in the upper half plane. So if you take a point outside the unit circle mod Z is equal to 1, its spherical image is in the upper half plane. Here Z is a point on the unit circle mod Z is equal to 1. So in this case, the spherical image coincides with Z. So in this case, Z is equal to capital Z. Capital Z is the spherical image. These two points coincide. So every element in the unit circle is mapped onto itself. Now take a secant Zn in the complex plane such that modulus of Zn diverges to plus infinity, and this is the point Z1 and this is Z2, Z3, etc. And observe that the modulus of that secant diverges to plus infinity. So in this case, the spherical image approaches to the north pole. Next, I am going to prove an algebraic formula for stereographic projection. If Z is any point in the complex plane, then its spherical image is given by phi of Z is equal to 2x divided by s square plus y square plus 1, 2y divided by s square plus y square plus 1, and last coordinate s square plus y square minus 1 divided by s square plus y square plus 1. Moreover, the inverse of this stereographic projection is given by phi inverse of x1, x2, x3 is equal to the ordered pair x1 divided by 1 minus x3, x2 divided by 1 minus x3. Let us go to the proof of this theorem. Consider the line passing through the points Z and N. Here N is the north pole of the sphere and Z is any point on the complex plane. Here L is the line joining the points N and Z. So L is given by L is equal to the set of all points Tn plus 1 minus T into Z. T varies over R. When T varies over R, we get all points in the line joining the points Z and N. In particular, when T is equal to 0, we get the point Z, and when T is equal to 1, we obtain the point N. So Tn plus 1 minus T into Z can be written as T into, here the point N, the coordinates of the point N are 0, 0, 1. So we can write T into 0, 0, 1 plus 1 minus T into, here Z is the complex plane. So here we are identifying the complex plane with the xy plane in R3. So we can write Z as xy0. So L is equal to T into 0, 0, 1 plus 1 minus T into xy0. T varies over R. And this can be written as the set of all triplets 1 minus T into x, 1 minus T into y, then T varies over R. And observe that here capital Z is a point on this line. So this capital Z is the point x1, x2, s3. So x1, s2, s3 is equal to some 1 minus T into x, 1 minus T into y, T. That is, since Z is equal to x1, s2, x3 is a point on the line L, we have x1, s2, s3 is equal to 1 minus T into x, 1 minus T into y, T for some T in R. So these two vectors are equal. So comparing the components, we get x1 is equal to, here this x1 is equal to 1 minus T into x, and the second component x2 is equal to 1 minus T into y, and the third component x3 is equal to T. But note that x1, x2, s3 is a point on the unit sphere So we have x1 square plus x2 square plus x3 square is equal to 1. But here we have x1 is equal to 1 minus t into x, x2 is equal to 1 minus t into y, and x3 is equal to t. So putting these values in this equation, x1 square plus s2 square plus s3 square is equal to 1, we obtain 1 is equal to 1 minus t the whole square into s square plus 1 minus t the whole square into y square plus t square. So these two terms, first two terms can be written as 1 minus t the whole square into s square plus y square, and this is the third term. But s square plus y square is the modulus of the complex number, the square of the modulus of z, that is 1 minus t, and this term can be written as 1 minus t the whole square into mod z the whole square. Modulus of the complex number z is root of s square plus y square. Therefore, modulus of z the whole square is equal to s square plus y square. So we have 1 is equal to 1 minus t square into mod z the whole square plus t square. If we shift t square to the left hand side, we obtain 1 minus t square is equal to 1 minus t the whole square into mod z the whole square, mod z the whole square. And this term can be factored in the form 1 minus t into 1 plus t. That is equal to 1 minus t square into mod z square. Here t is not equal to 1. When t is equal to 1, we get the point n. That is, when t is equal to 1, we get the point n, and z is a point other than n. That is, when t is equal to 1 correspond to the point n. So we get, from this equation we get 1 plus t is equal to 1 minus t into mod z square. So simplifying, and from this equation we obtain t is equal to mod z squared minus 1 divided by mod z squared plus 1. Putting the value of t in equation 1, and this is equation 1. If we substitute the value of t in this equation, we obtain x1 is equal to 2x divided by mod z squared plus 1, x2 is equal to 2y divided by mod z squared plus 1, x3 is equal to mod z squared minus 1 divided by mod z squared plus 1. But 2x is equal to z plus z bar, and 2y is equal to minus I into z minus z bar. So if z is any point in the complex plane, then the spherical image of the point z is given by the formula 2x divided by s square plus y square plus 1, 2y divided by s square plus y square plus 1, and the last coordinate s square plus y square minus 1 divided by s square plus y square plus 1. And note that this function phi has three components. This is first component, and this is the second component, and this is the third component. Assume that the first component is f1, and this is f2, and this is f3. Note that each components are continuous functions. Since each components are continuous functions, the stereographic projection phi is a continuous map from C to S2 minus n. Next, we will find the inverse of the function phi. Here the problem is given a point x1, y1, x1, x2, x3 in S2 minus n. We want to find an z in C such that the image of z is equal to x1, x2, x3. For this, consider a straight line passing through the points n and z, and this is a straight line passing through the points n and z, and observe that this straight line intersects the plane at a unique point at z is equal to x plus iy. Observe that the equation of the line through n and z is given by L prime is equal to Tn plus 1 minus t into z, t varies over r. But n is the north pole of the sphere, so Tn can be written as t into 0, 0, 1. Here the coordinates of n are 0, 0, 1 plus 1 minus t into the vector z. The vector z is x1, x2, x3, t varies over r. So this point can be written as the triplet 1 minus t into x1, 1 minus t into x2, 1 minus t into x3 plus t. But note that z is a point on the straight line joining the points n and z. That is, z is a point on L prime. But the coordinates of z are x, y, 0. Therefore, x is equal to 1 minus t into x1 for x1, and y is equal to 1 minus t into x2, and this term is equal to 0 for some t. That is, since z is equal to xy 0 is a point on the line L prime, we have x is equal to 1 minus t into x1, y is equal to 1 minus t into x2, and 0 is equal to 1 minus t into x3 plus t for some t in r. From the last equation, we have t is equal to x3 divided by x3 minus 1. So putting the value of this t in the remaining two equations, we obtain x is equal to x1 divided by 1 minus x3 and y is equal to x2 divided by 1 minus x3. Therefore, the point z is equal to x plus iy, that is equal to x1 plus I x2 divided by 1 minus x3. Therefore, phi inverse of x1, x2, x3 is equal to the ordered pair x1 divided by 1 minus x3 and x2 divided by 1 minus x3. Here x1, x2, x3 is an arbitrary point on s2 minus n. And note that this function phi inverse is a function from s2 minus n to r2. And this function has two components, namely f1 and f2, and this is f1 and this is f2. And note that s3 is not equal to 1. Here the point x1, s2, s3 is a point. Here x1, s2, x3 are the coordinates of the point z, and z is not equal to n. Therefore, f3 is not equal to 1. This means that the components f1 and f2 are continuous functions, and therefore the function phi inverse is a continuous function. So it is obvious that the functions phi and phi inverse are both continuous. Thus we find that C and S2 minus n are homeomorphic, and the homeomorphism is given by this formula. Next we claim that the extended plane C infinity. Next we claim that there is a one-to-one correspondence between the set of all points in C infinity and the sphere S2. To prove this, define a function psi from C infinity to S2 by psi of z is equal to n if z is equal to infinity. That is, the point at infinity is mapped onto n and the remaining points are mapped onto the spherical images. Then the restriction of this function phi on S2 minus n is the stereographic projection phi, and moreover this function is a bijective function from C infinity on to S2. So there is a one-to-one correspondence between the elements of C infinity and the elements of S2. Next we claim that C infinity is a metric space. To prove that C infinity is a metric space, we define a distance function on C infinity as follows. Let Z and Z prime be 2 points in C infinity. Then we define the distance between Z and Z prime is equal to the Euclidean distance between the spherical images phi z and phi of Z prime, and this distance is called the spherical distance between the points Z and Z prime. So the distance between Z and Z prime is same as the Euclidean distance between psi of Z and psi of Z prime. Then we can prove that the distance between Z and Z prime is equal to 2 times modulus of Z minus Z prime divided by square root of modulus of Z squared plus 1 into modulus of Z prime squared plus 1 if Z and Z prime are in C, and if Z prime is infinity, this distance is equal to 2 divided by square root of mod Z squared plus 1. Let us go to the proof of this lemma. Here we consider 2 cases. Case 1, assume that Z and Z prime are points in C, and assume that phi of Z is the spherical image corresponding to Z and phi of Z prime is the spherical image corresponding to Z prime. So assume that phi of Z is equal to x1, x2, x3 and phi of Z prime is equal to x1 prime, x2 prime, x3 prime. Then by the definition we have distance from Z to Z prime is equal to the Euclidean distance between the points x1, x2, s3 and x1 prime, s2 prime, s3 prime. So the distance between Z and Z prime is equal to square root of x1 minus x1 prime the whole square plus s2 minus s2 prime the whole square plus x3 minus x3 prime the whole square. But this equation can be written as d of z prime squared is equal to this expression. If we square each term, we obtain this expression. But x1, s2, s3 is a point on the unit sphere, so this term reduces to 1, and x1 prime, x2 prime, x3 prime is also in the unit sphere, so this expression is also is equal to 1. So we get this expression is equal to 2 minus 2 into x1 prime plus x2 prime plus x3 prime. Now consider the expression x1 prime plus x2 prime plus x3 prime. From equation 2 we have x1 is equal to z plus z prime divided by mod z squared plus 1 and x2 is equal to minus I into z minus z prime divided by mod z squared plus 1 and x3 is equal to mod z squared minus 1 divided by z squared plus 1. Similarly, the expression for x1 prime, x2 prime and x3 prime. Substituting these values in the expression, we obtain this formula. That is the expression x1 x1 prime plus x2 s2 prime plus s3 s3 prime is equal to 1 minus 2 into z minus z prime the whole square divided by mod z squared plus 1 into mod z prime the whole square plus 1. Hence equation 5 becomes equation 5. Here this is equation 5. So substituting the value of this expression in equation 5, we obtain the square of the distance between z and z prime is equal to 2 minus this expression. On simplification, we obtain this expression is equal to 4 times modulus of z minus z prime the whole square divided by mod z squared plus 1 into mod z prime the whole square plus 1. If we take the square root, we get the distance between z and z prime is equal to this. Now consider the second case. Assume that z is a point in C and z prime is infinity. Then the distance between z and infinity is equal to the Euclidean distance between their spherical images. The spherical image of z is phi of z and the spherical image of the point infinity is n. So the Euclidean distance between these 2 points is square root of x1 minus 0 the whole square plus s2 minus 0 the whole square plus s3 minus 1 the whole square. But x1 square plus x2 square plus s3 square is equal to 1, since the triplet x1 s2 s3 is a point on the unit sphere. So this is equal to 1. So this expression becomes square root of 2 minus 2x3. But from equation 2, we can substitute the value of x3. After simplification, we obtain the distance between z and infinity is equal to 2 divided by square root of mod z squared plus 1. Then theorem 2.3 states that C infinity is a metric space with respect to the metric d of z prime is equal to 2 times modulus of z minus z prime divided by square root of mod z squared plus 1 into modulus of z prime square plus 1 if z and z prime are in C, and if z prime is infinity, this is equal to 2 divided by mod z square plus 1 raised to 1 by 2, and when z is equal to z prime is equal to infinity, we define the distance between infinity and infinity is equal to 0. With respect to this distance function, C infinity is a metric space. The proof of this result is quite simple. So the next theorem tells us that the Euclidean metric rho and the spherical distance d are equivalent on bounded subsets of C. The proof is also quite simple. So let M be a bounded subset of C, and since M is bounded, we can find a real number r greater than 0 such that this set M is contained in the closure of the open ball with the center 0 and the radius r. And this means that modulus of z is less than or equal to r for all z and z prime in M. So since mod z is less than or equal to r, we have mod z squared plus 1. Mod z squared plus 1 is less than or equal to r squared plus 1. Therefore, this term is greater than or equal to 2 divided by 1 plus r squared into mod z minus z prime. Also, this expression is less than or equal to, but mod z minus z prime divided by this term is always less than 1. So this expression is less than or equal to 2 times modulus of z minus z prime. Combining these two inequalities, we obtain 2 divided by 1 plus r square into mod z minus z prime is less than or equal to distance between z and z prime, which is less than or equal to 2 times the distance between z and z prime. But this is the usual distance between the points z and z prime in C. That is, this is the distance rho, the rho of z prime, and this term is also rho of z and z prime. So 2 divided by 1 plus r square into rho of z prime is less than or equal to the distance between z and z prime, which is less than or equal to 2 times rho of z and z prime. Here rho is the usual metric on C and d is the spherical metric on C infinity. So this inequality shows that on a bounded subset of C, the matrices rho and d are equivalent. Since rho and d are equivalent, the topology generated by rho is same as the topology generated by d. We have already proved that C infinity is a metric space, but every metric induces a topology. In that topology, open sets are union of open balls. So first define the open balls in C and C infinity. So let Z0 be a point in C. Then we define the open ball with the center 0 and the radius epsilon with respect to the metric rho is set of all those points in C such that rho of z prime is less than epsilon. That is equal to set of all those points in C such that modulus of z minus z0 is less than epsilon. Now consider a point z0 in C infinity. Then the open ball with the center 0 and the radius epsilon, or the neighborhood of epsilon neighborhood of z0 is defined as the set of all those points in C infinity such that the spherical distance between z and z0 is less than epsilon. In particular, the epsilon neighborhood of infinity, that is B infinity epsilon with respect to the metric D, is the set of all those points in C infinity such that distance between z and infinity is less than epsilon. But we note that distance between infinity and infinity is defined as 0. So obviously 0 is always in the set. Infinity is always in the set. So the distance between z and infinity less than epsilon means the spherical distance between phi z and n is less than epsilon. But we have already proved that the spherical distance, that is the distance between z and infinity, is 2 divided by square root of modulus of z squared plus 1, and this is the distance between z and infinity. But this is less than epsilon means modulus of z is greater than square root of 4 by epsilon squared minus 1. Thus the epsilon neighborhood of infinity is defined as set of all those elements in C such that modulus of z is greater than square root of 4 divided by epsilon squared minus 1. So the neighborhoods of the point at infinity are complement of closed balls centered at the origin and radius 1 by epsilon. So this is the unit ball, and this is the circle mod z is equal to 1 by epsilon. Therefore the epsilon neighborhood of the point infinity is the complement of the open ball with the center 0 and the radius 1 by epsilon, that is this region. That is the, and this is the disk with the center 0 and the radius 1 by epsilon. The complement of this disk is the epsilon neighborhood of the point infinity. Since C infinity is a metric space, it is a topological space. So the open sets are union of open balls. Also observe that S2 is a subspace of R3. So S2 is a topological space, and the topology on S2 is the subspace topology. Therefore the topology tau is equal to W intersection S squared, where W is open in R3. Next we prove that the topological space C infinity is homeomorphic to the space S2. To prove this, we first state a remarkable property of the stereographic projection, that is, let delta be a circle in S2. If delta contains the point n, that is, if the circle passes through the north pole, then its projection on C is a straight line together with infinity. That is, if we consider a circle delta in S2, and if that circle passes through the north pole, then its projection is a straight line together with infinity. And otherwise, the projection of a circle is another circle in C. This is the unit circle, and this is a circle in the unit sphere, and this circle does not pass through the north pole. So the projection of this circle on C is another circle. So if the circle does not pass through the point n, the projection of this circle on C is another circle, the usual circle. So this is the unit circle, and this is a circle passing through the north pole of the unit sphere. Then its projection is a line. Let us go to the proof of this theorem. Here delta is a circle in S2. So that circle can be considered as the intersection of the sphere and a plane. Every circle in space is the intersection of some sphere and a plane. So assume that delta is the intersection of S2 and this plane. Here beta 1 x1 plus beta 2 x2 plus beta s3 is equal to L represents a plane, and beta 1, beta 2, beta 3 are the direction cosines to the normal to the plane. That is, these two equations, the first equation represents a sphere and the second equation represents a plane. These two equations together represents the circle delta in S2. But the spherical image of any point in C is given by this formula. Therefore, we have the transformations x1 is equal to 2x divided by s square plus y square plus 1, and x2 is equal to 2y divided by s square plus y square plus 1, and x3 is equal to s square plus y square minus 1 divided by s square plus y square plus 1. So substituting these coordinates in the plane, we obtain this. On simplification, we obtain beta 3 minus L into s square plus y square plus 2 beta 1 x plus 2 beta 2 y is equal to L plus beta 3. And this is the equation of certain locus in the Z plane. Now we consider two cases. Case 1. Suppose that the circle delta passes through the north pole 0, 0, 1. If the plane passes through the point 0, 0, 1, then we get this is 0 and this is 0 and S3 is 1. So we get beta 3 is equal to L. So if the circle passes through the north pole, we get beta 3 is equal to L. So suppose that the circle passes through the north pole, in this case beta 3 is equal to L. Hence this equation becomes 2 beta 1 x plus 2 beta 2 y is equal to 2 beta 3. Here L is equal to beta 3. In other words, beta 1 x plus beta 2 y is equal to beta 3, and this is the equation of a line in R3. So if the circle passes through the north pole of the sphere, then its image is a line in C together with infinity. Now consider the second case. Suppose the circle delta does not pass through the point n001. So if the circle does not pass through the point 001, then beta 3 is not equal to L. So this equation becomes, that is beta 3 into L into s squared plus y square plus 2 beta 1 x plus 2 beta 2 y is equal to L plus b3. And since beta 3 minus L is not equal to 0, we can divide both sides by beta 3 minus L. So we obtain this equation, and this equation can be written as x plus beta 1 divided by beta 3 minus L the whole squared plus y plus beta 2 divided by beta 3 minus L the whole squared is equal to this. Take this is equal to R, and this equation represents a circle if R is positive. So we can compute the value of R is equal to this. On simplification, we obtain this R is equal to 1 minus L square divided by beta 3 minus L the whole square. So this term is positive. So this equation represents a circle in C. So the conclusion is, if delta is a circle in the unit sphere which does not pass through the north pole, then its projection is a circle in C. So in view of the above theorem, it follows that a circle in the extended plane is either a line together with infinity or a natural circle in C. And we will prove that the spaces C infinity and S2 are homeomorphic. And note that the stereographic projection psi is a bijective map, and we will prove that psi is a homeomorphism between C infinity and S2, and also observe that psi is both 1 1 and 1 2. That means psi is a bijective map. So to prove that psi is a bijective, psi is a homeomorphism, it suffices to show that psi is an open map. Open map means the image of any open set is open. So let epsilon, let b z0 epsilon be a neighborhood of the point z0. That is, b z0 epsilon is an open disk in C, but every open disk in C is union of sets of this form. Here CR is the boundary of the circle set of all z such that mod z is equal to R. That is, every open disk is the union of the set CR. R varies from 0 to epsilon. Here epsilon is not included. And note that the spherical image of CR, the spherical image of CR is again a circle in S2 minus n. Here CR is a circle in C, therefore its spherical image is also a circle in S2 minus n. Now consider the image of this disk under the function phi. So this is union of phi of CR, and each phi of CR is a circle in S2 minus n. Therefore this image can be considered as the intersection of S2 and some open ball in R3. That is, here this is a disk, and the image of this disk is a patch in the unit sphere. That is, this is the image of, and this is the image of, this is the image of this disk, and this image is a patch in S2, but this patch can be considered as the intersection of the sphere S2 and an open ball in R3. Note that a patch in S2 is the intersection of the unit sphere S2 and an open ball in R3. These are the patches in S2. Hence the image of every open disk under the function phi is an open set in S2. Next, to consider an epsilon neighborhood of the point infinity in C infinity. That is, the epsilon neighborhood of the point infinity can be written in this fashion. That is, the neighborhood of the point infinity is equal to union of CR, R greater than 1 by epsilon union infinity, where CR is the circle with the center 0 and radius R. Obviously, the image of this neighborhood is equal to union of phi of CR union n. Here phi of CR is the image of the circle CR under the function phi, and n is the image of the point infinity under the function psi. and this is the circle with the center 0 and the radius 1 by epsilon. So the epsilon neighborhood of the point infinity is the complement of this blue disk, that is this region together with infinity, that is this region together with infinity, and the image of this region under the function psi is a patch in the top of the sphere, and the image of infinity is the north pole, and this patch can be considered as the intersection of S2 and a sphere in R3, but the intersection of S2 and a sphere in R3 is an open set in S2. So the image of this neighborhood is an open set in S2. Hence psi maps each open disk to an open set in S2. Hence psi is a homeomorphism, that is psi is a homeomorphism between C infinity and S2. So the sphere S2 and C infinity, the extended complex plane, are homeomorphic, but S2 is a compact space and C infinity is the homeomorphic image of S2, so C infinity is also a compact set, and this compact set is the one-point compactification of the complex plane C. I am going to conclude this section with a problem, and this is problem number 5 in your prescribed book. The problem is that Z and Z prime be points on S2 corresponding to Z and Z prime respectively, and W be the point corresponding to Z plus Z prime. Find the coordinates of W in terms of the coordinates of Z and Z prime. That is, given 2 points in the complex plane Z and Z prime. So we can find a complex number Z plus Z prime in the complex plane. So the sum is again a complex number in the complex plane, and assume that Z is equal to X plus Iy and Z prime is equal to X prime plus Iy prime. Here capital Z is the spherical image of the point Z, and the capital Z prime is the spherical image of this complex number, and W is the spherical image of the complex number Z plus Z prime. Assume that the coordinates of ZB x1, x2, x3 and the coordinates of Z prime be x1 prime, x2 prime, x3 prime, and the coordinates of W be x1 double prime, x2 double prime and x3 double prime. But this Z is the image of this capital Z under the function phi inverse. So we have Z is equal to x1 divided by 1 minus x3 plus I into x2 divided by 1 minus x3. Similarly, Z prime is the pre-image of this spherical image. Therefore, Z prime can be written as x1 prime divided by 1 minus x3 prime plus I into x2 prime divided by 1 minus x3 prime. Therefore, Z plus Z prime is the sum of 2 complex numbers, and this complex number is equal to x double prime plus I into y double prime, and this real part is x double prime and this imaginary part is y double prime. But the image of the spherical image of the point Z plus Z prime that is equal to the spherical image of x double prime plus I y double prime. So by definition, or by the, we have already derived a formula for spherical image. So we have the image of this point is equal to 2x double prime divided by this. Similarly, y double prime by this is equal to, then third coordinate is x double prime the whole square plus y double prime the whole square minus 1 by this. And we have assumed that these coordinates are x1 double prime, x2 double prime and x3 double prime. So these two vectors are equal. So we have x1 double prime is equal to this, but this is equal to, but x double prime is this expression. So simplifying, we get this expression. Similarly, we can find s2 double prime and x3 double prime. These are the references. Thank you.